When we think about the future of Earth, it's easy to fall into extremes. Some imagine a thriving green planet powered entirely by clean energy, while others picture a collapsing world marked by climate disasters, resource shortages, and mass displacement. The truth is, as usual, sits somewhere in between, and more importantly, it depends heavily on what we do next. Right now, Earth is changing faster than at almost any point in human history. Global temperatures have risen significantly since the late 19th century, and the pace is accelerating. This isn't just about warmer summers. It's about shifting weather systems, rising sea levels, more intense storms, prolonged droughts, and ecosystems struggling to adapt. But here's the key point. None of this is happening in isolation. Every environmental change triggers a chain reaction. For example, melting ice in the Arctic doesn't just affect polar bears, it reduces the planet's ability to reflect sunlight, which leads to even more warming. That warming then impacts agriculture, water supply, and human health across continents. So the question becomes, are we heading toward disaster, or is there still real hope? Let's start with the case for disaster. One of the biggest concerns is climate tipping points. These are thresholds that, once crossed, lead to irreversible changes. Think of massive ice sheets collapsing or rainforests turning into dry savannas. Scientists warn that some of these tipping points may be closer than we think. If global temperatures rise beyond certain limits, the effects could become self-reinforcing. For instance, thawing permafrost releases methane, a powerful greenhouse gas, which then accelerates warming even further. This kind of feedback loop is difficult, if not impossible, to stop once it begins. Another issue is biodiversity loss. Species are disappearing at a rate far higher than natural background levels. This isn't just an environmental issue, it directly affects human survival. Healthy ecosystems provide clean water, pollinate crops, regulate climate, and maintain soil fertility. When those systems break down, food security and economic stability are at risk. Urbanization also plays a role. By 2050, a large majority of the world's population will live in cities. While cities can be efficient, they also concentrate risk. Heat waves become more dangerous in dense urban environments. Infrastructure is often unprepared for extreme weather, and in many parts of the world, rapid urban growth is outpacing sustainable planning. Then there's the issue of inequality. Climate change doesn't affect everyone equally. Wealthier countries have more resources to adapt, while poorer regions often face the worst impacts with the least support. This imbalance can lead to increased migration, political instability, and conflict over resources like water and arable land. If all of these trends continue unchecked, the disaster scenario becomes increasingly plausible. But that's only half the story. Now let's talk about hope, and not just vague, wishful kind, but grounded, realistic hope based on current progress and potential. First, renewable energy is advancing rapidly. Solar and wind power have become significantly cheaper over the past decade. In many regions, they are now the most cost-effective sources of new electricity. This isn't just good for the environment, it's transforming global energy markets. Battery technology is improving as well, making it easier to store renewable energy and use it when needed. Electric vehicles are becoming more common, reducing dependence on fossil fuels in transportation, one of the largest sources of emissions. Second, there's growing awareness and action. Governments, businesses, and individuals are increasingly recognizing the urgency of environmental issues. Policies aimed at reducing emissions, protecting ecosystems, and promoting sustainability are becoming more common. Even large corporations, once seen as a part of the problem, are now under pressure to change. Many are investing in cleaner technologies, reducing waste, and committing to carbon neutrality. While not all of these efforts are perfect, they represent a shift in direction that would have been unlikely just a couple of decades ago. Technology is another major source of optimism. Innovations in agriculture, for example, are making it possible to produce more food with fewer resources. Precision farming, drought-resistant crops, and vertical farming systems can help feed a growing population while reducing environmental impact. In addition, advances in climate modeling and data analysis allow us to better understand risks and plan accordingly. Early warning systems for extreme weather events are saving lives. Smart infrastructure is being designed to withstand future conditions, not just current ones. There's also a growing movement toward rethinking how we live, not just what we consume, but how we design our societies. Concepts like the circular economy aim to eliminate waste by reusing and recycling materials continuously. Sustainable urban planning focuses on green spaces, efficient public transport, and energy-efficient buildings. Perhaps most importantly, younger generations are more engaged than ever. Around the world, young people are pushing for accountability and long-term thinking. They're influencing policy, driving cultural change, and redefining what progress means. So where does that leave us? The future of Earth is not predetermined. It's not locked into either hope or disaster. Instead, it's shaped by a series of decisions, many of which are being made right now. If emissions continue to rise and environmental protections weaken, the risks will grow and the window for effective action will shrink. But if current progress accelerates, if clean energy expands, ecosystems are restored, and sustainable practices become the norm, then a more stable and livable future is still within reach. It's also important to understand that hope doesn't mean everything will be perfect. Even in the best-case scenarios, some level of climate change is already unavoidable. The goal is not to return to the past, but to prevent the worst outcomes and adapt intelligently to the changes that are already happening. At the same time, disaster doesn't necessarily mean total collapse. It often means increased difficulty, instability, and inequality, conditions that can persist for decades or longer. In other words, the future will likely include both challenges and opportunities. The balance between them depends on how seriously we take the situation today. So what can actually be done? At the global level, coordinated action is essential. Climate change and environmental degradation don't respect national borders. International cooperation, while often complicated, is critical for meaningful progress. At the national and local levels, policy decisions matter. Investments in infrastructure, energy systems, education, and environmental protection all shape long-term outcomes. And at the individual level, while no single action will solve the problem, collective behavior adds up. Choices about energy use, consumption, transportation, and even voting can influence broader systems. But perhaps the most important shift is in mindset. Instead of viewing the future as something that simply happens to us, it's more accurate and more useful to see it as something we actively create. The narrative of inevitable doom can be paralyzing, while blind optimism can lead to complacency. What's needed is a clear-eyed understanding of the risks, combined with a willingness to act. The future of Earth is still being written. It could become a story of missed warnings and irreversible damage, or it could become a story of adaptation, innovation, and resilience. Right now, both paths are still open, and that's exactly why this moment matters.